Hi everybody, I'm Elijah. I thank you for being here. I wanted to make this video centered around the basics of astrology, how astrology pertains to human consciousness and who we are as spiritual beings. I'm also going to go into detail about how the elements and the signs that we have incorporated within ourselves relate to the tree of life, and I'm going to make a whole video on that, so stay tuned. I'm going to give examples of how this all pertains to Winnie the Pooh. We are all familiar with Winnie the Pooh, and it's going to be an exciting adventure, so I thank you for being here. Stay tuned. Alright, hi everybody. So, whether you're new to astrology or you're somebody who is very much entrenched in the field of astrology, I think that there is something valuable that I can bring to you in regards to understanding it from a holistic perspective. Now, I want to make it very clear that astrology is not the be-all, end-all in understanding who you are as a unique individual. And it's not even the be-all, end-all in regards to who we are as a collective. It is a tool. It is one aspect of us. It is one aspect that is working in conjunction with all the other qualities about us and our planet and who we are as a collective consciousness. Okay, so it's one aspect. In this video, I'm gonna detail elements of personality types. I'm sure if you're watching this video, you've surely heard of the Enneagram personality profile. You've also heard of the Myers-Briggs test, which is all about the INFJ and all that. I think there are about 16 Myers-Briggs personality types. In the Enneagram, there are 9 personality types. Now, these personality types are not the be-all, end-all. There is a matter of having discussions of how these correlate to all of our unique personalities. And that's okay. I don't think we're going to have a perfect list that explains who we are as individuals, but they are all useful. All of these different tests are useful in helping us get a better understanding of who we are. And I'm going to give my own spin on this. So, astrology. What is astrology? You know about the zodiac signs, all the way from Aries going to Pisces. Alright? You can consider astrology as the sister or brother, the sibling of astronomy. Alright? Astrology deals specifically with energy and how the stars, the planets, the constellations, how they influence us. Okay? So the key word here is energy. All of the universe is energy. Every single atom, every molecule, every aspect of the universe is energy that's resonating on a certain frequency. Everything is energy, and it's constantly transforming itself. Alright? Matter cannot be created nor destroyed. It's always there in a constant flux. Alright? So, when you think of astrology, remember that word, energy. It's all about energy. Okay, so this drawing behind me. Now, I'm going to reference my last video, which you can see in the top of your screen, which describes this inner circle with a star. That's called the pentagram. It's a positive symbol that is the representation of who we are as human beings. We all have the elements of air, water, fire, and earth within us. It's our consciousness, our thoughts, emotions, and actions. Okay? And spirit is on top. We are spiritual beings by nature. Okay? So, going off of the pentagram, that is our consciousness. I have another circle drawn around this, okay? And it might look a little busy. You have all of these symbols going around it. What these symbols represent are the 12 main zodiac signs, all right? I'm sure if you believe in the validity of astrology or you don't, everybody gets excited when you hear about what your zodiac sign is, and most people only know their sun sign. All right, I'm a Gemini, I'm an Aries, this, that, or the other. All right, it gets you excited because you know in the core of your being that there is something valid about astrology and how it pertains to forming our personality in this world. Right? We all know this, but understand there's way more to astrology than just your sun sign. All right? You have a sun sign, and this is all, more catered towards Western astrology. We all have a sun sign. This is where you're born in relation to the sun. Where is the sun when you are born? What zodiac sign is it in? That's one aspect. There's also your moon sign, and there's also something called a rising sign. I'm not going to, in this video, go into details about this. I want to give you a general description of astrology. There are so many other people within the spiritual alternative community who specialize in astrology, and that's the focus of their work, and they're doing a very good job. So if you want to know more details about astrology, I would encourage you to check out your favorite individual who discusses this. And here I just want to break it down in a simple way to help you understand. All right, it's a very complex subject, very complex, but make no mistake about it, astrology is a science. All right, all of these things can be detected through scientific measures and instruments if we know what to look for and what technology to develop, so we can start to track down these energies and see how they influence us. So this is a science. It can be measured. All right, it's just a shame that we live in a world where it's scoffed at and considered woo-woo. All right, that's because the people controlling this world are assholes. They don't want you to know this. All right, they know this. The people controlling this world, the Illuminati, they know all about this. They don't know everything about it, but they do consider it a science, and they actively look at it and see how it influences them in world events. All right, it's a very real subject. So all of these signs going around this big outer ring are the symbols used for zodiac signs. Starting with the top, you have Aries. Aries, Taurus, Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces. They all have different colors because each zodiac sign has an element infused with it. You remember, we have air, water, fire, and earth. There are 12 main zodiac signs. Now, each of these 4 elements has 3 zodiac signs that correspond to it. So Aries, which is in the color red, is considered a fire sign. It's considered a fire sign. Taurus is an earth, Gemini is an air, Cancer is water, so on and so forth. All right? Now remember, each of us have all these elements within us, but when we're born in a particular astrological sign, one particular element tends to be stronger than the others within you. And if you look at your astrology sign, you can see how these personality types pertain to you and the element, right? Somebody who's an Aries, that's a fire sign. They tend to be very passionate, ready to take action. They can have a fiery temper. All right, and there are many other aspects of an Aries, but that's just an example to help you understand. All right, so understanding that. Now imagine we all come from Source as souls. We are splinters of the all. Every single one of us is a small aspect of Source, of the Creator. All right, we're not separate from the Creator. We are an aspect of it. So as a soul, we choose when and where to incarnate in the world, depending on what we want to experience, what we want to feel in our experience. So when we splinter from Source, we come in. If you imagine the first circle as being planet Earth, we as a soul will say, okay, I want to go to Earth and I want to have certain experiences, right? So you as a soul, you a unique personality, you as a unique pocket of energy, decide I'm going to incarnate then and there, okay? And what we'll often do when we're in that region of space, we decide we're going to incarnate in the sphere of a planet at a certain time period. So when a soul comes in to the sphere of our planet, you will come in at a certain time when the sun and the moon, the planets are all aligned a certain way. And when you come in, your soul receives that sort of energy. There's a unique energy that is emanating from the region where you might find Aries or Gemini or Scorpio. There's a unique sort of energy that emanates from that region of space. All right? Everything is energy. Everything radiates a certain type of energy. All right? So as a soul, you'll come in, and it might be Aries happens to be in the region of space where the sun goes through, where you're born. Okay? So you will take on that energy, right? Now look on this part of the board here. I have a very crude drawing of a DNA molecule. We all understand DNA is the molecule that is the code for all organic life. All right? DNA is very important for giving us an experience, a human experience. We'll have, when we incarnate as a soul, we're a unique pocket of energy. When you come into a physical body with DNA, you take on a certain genetic disposition that is able to fuse with your soul type. All right, you'll actively look for a body that you can be born into that has DNA that can hold up your particular soul, your soul type. All right. DNA is made up of 4 nucleotides. They're called the nucleotides. A, T, C, G. Adenosine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Okay. Now in DNA, I'm just giving you a very basic understanding of it. There are 4 of these nucleotides, and I have them color-coded as green, yellow, red, and blue. All right? Now, metaphysically, these nucleotides pertain to the 4 elements. All right? If you remember from my last video, I explained there are 2 elements, fire and air, that are considered masculine energies. Then there are 2 elements, water and earth, that are considered feminine energies. Okay, electromagnetism is the basis of how everything is glued together in the universe. Electromagnetism. Electricity is the masculine component. Magnetism is the feminine component. This is what glues everything together. Now with A, T, C, and G, only A and T will be able to bind together, and C and G will be able to bind together. These are the four elements, a masculine and feminine with green and yellow, and another masculine and feminine, red and blue. All right? There are four nucleotides. So envision when you're a soul, you're incarnating in a planet at a certain time. You have different energies that are coming through that are infusing with DNA, with your genetic disposition. These energies help to highlight certain areas, to give you an amplified personality that differentiates you from other people, genetically and spiritually. Okay, so imagine DNA gets fused with these cosmic energies. And this is what makes you who you are. Okay? So, on the other side of the board here, I have a tree. Forget that it's purple. You know, this is the tree of life. I'm going to make another video specifically about the tree of life and what it is. But for the purpose of this video, I want to give you a very generic description. The tree of life is an etheric component of creation. The tree of life is what binds all souls together, along with all other organic life in creation. Each one of us are a part of this tree. Every single one of us are a part of this tree. Now, I kind of want to leave it at that. I'm going to go into a bigger description. But when we incarnate in this world, it is our duty to protect and preserve the tree. The tree of life is what maintains balance in the universe. It is our objective when we incarnate in a world to be proper stewards of our planet, to take care of it. That is our inherent duty. That is what we are here to do, to protect the tree while also enjoying life and the fruits that life gives to us. All right? So, when we all incarnate in the sphere of creation, this is our particular planet, let's say. We are making the conscious choice that when we incarnate in this world and we become infused with these elements and DNA, which helps to amplify our personality, we are taking a risk, because when we incarnate in this world, not only are we enjoying life and everything that it has to give to us, to explore, to learn, and evolve, we're also taking a risk because there is a darkness about creation that actively wants to destroy the tree. That is the dark one. That is his imperative. That's what he wants to constantly do, to break down this tree, to put it in a state of constant decay so he can have an upper hand against all the other great spirits in maintaining balance and harmony within the universe. We're taking that risk when we incarnate in a world because we can and inevitably will be influenced him by, through our consciousness. He'll constantly try to keep us down. He'll try to make us more aggressive towards one another, more competitive. He'll try to make us make very bad decisions for our health and for the health of our planet. So we are taking a risk, but we have the power at all times to not listen to his voice inside of our heads. We can shun it away and choose to embody our fullest power and potential in maintaining the harmony of the tree of life. Now, what I want to get into is personality types, okay? We are all born of Mother Earth. We are all born through the Divine Mother. We are brothers and sisters. We are all aspects of her personality. Alright, and there's a reason that we're all different, because we're meant to cooperate with one another and lend our inherent characteristics to creating a beautiful, harmonious world. Alright, and that's very important to understand, to understand. I know a lot of you like to use that word. Alright, so this is where I'm going to get into how to look at personality types in relation to Winnie the Pooh. I'm sure all of you have at some point read or watched an episode of Winnie the Pooh and all the characters who inhabit what is called the 100-acre wood. Now, the person who created Winnie the Pooh, whether he was consciously aware of what he was doing with the metaphors he was bringing to life in his series, you know, I don't think any of us will really know. And it might be the case that he had no intentions of having these sorts of deeper metaphors embedded within what he created with Winnie the Pooh. But we can still look at it as a way to develop these deeper meanings. All right, so I'm gonna go through this. So imagine the 100-acre wood being an allegory, a metaphor for our planet. The 100-acre wood is planet Earth, and all of us unique souls are in this world cohabitating with one another, and all of us more or less fit into one of the characters. Alright, so there are millions of Winnie the Poohs, there are millions of Tiggers, so on and so forth. Every one of us, through our astrological signs, through our genetic makeup, who we are as souls, can in some way be funneled into these various personality types, which we can use as a tool to better understand ourselves. What are our triggers? What are we prone to fall into destructively? What are we passionate about? Alright, so let's go, and I'm only going to use the Enneagram. The Enneagram is one of very many personality types. I think the Enneagram is very useful. There are 9 main types, but again, it's very disputed amongst people. So today we are going to be looking at all the different variations of personalities that may make up the human race. Now, if you take an Enneagram test, you'll find that you'll often fall under one main type of Enneagram personality. You might also have another type. Now, what I want to stress is that this is not the be-all, end-all of determining who you are. There are many components of who you are, but this is a nice tool to start to get to know yourself better. What are your triggers? What are your passions? What motivates you? So we are going to look at all 9 types of these personalities, as well as what are all the triggers and variations that go along with each type. At the end of each type that I describe, I'm going to offer suggestions of what mental disorder might often a person who falls under any type might fall into. Now, dark energy affects us all differently. And because we are all different beings, this dark energy will manifest us in different ways. So, as you'll see in this chart here, on the very top, there are several different categories. I'm going to go over briefly what each category represents, and then we'll get into which Winnie the Pooh character likely falls under each type. So starting with the first column, you have type. There are 9 different types that are listed underneath the Enneagram personality test. Now, one person might resonate more with one of these types than the others, but it's also important to understand that we are very multifaceted beings, so it is very likely that we might resonate with several of these, and that is perfectly okay. I want to also make it clear when I discuss all of these types, I have no intention of diagnosing anybody with any particular mental disorder. This is something that you have to go seek a professional and figure out what it is you are succumbing to. This is just meant to give you a general description and what I personally believe each type might fall into. So moving on to the second category, characteristic role. The characteristic role is the label associated with each type. Starting with type 1, the term that is often used is the reformer or perfectionist. All the way to type 9, one might call them the peacemaker or the mediator, and everything else in between. These are just very general descriptions of somebody who might tend to gravitate towards one specific type. The third category is called ego fixation. Now, what this represents is the negative aspect of one's personality that one might fall into if they're not careful about maintaining their balance. The fourth category is holy idea. Now, this is a spiritual desire, what each type tends to strive for as a holy idea, as something that each one of us looks to ignite within ourselves with our passion and our intentions. The fifth category is called basic fare. This is self-explanatory. This is what each type tends to fare in their everyday existence. This is what they are trying to avoid at all costs, because for them, this is what brings them down, and this takes them away from themselves and what they tend to identify with. The sixth category is called basic desire. This is what each type desires to manifest in their personal life. This is what they're constantly trying to strive for in their daily improvements in their life. The seventh category is called temptation. This is what each type is tempted to fall into. If they're not careful, they will fall into these particular descriptions. It is a temptation. It is a temptation that, although might seem positive, will actually have negative ramifications. The eighth category is called vice or passion. This can be correlated with the 7 deadly sins in a way. Each of us has something that affects our personality, who we are as a soul, as a spiritual being. This is what takes us over if we are not careful. If we do not maintain balance in our lives, it is very easy for these types to fall into this particular emotion, or negative virtue, you might call it. And that brings me to the 9th category, called virtue. A virtue is not something that one can attain. It is something that one continues to strive for every single day. This is that aspect of the universe, of creation, that we hold dear in our hearts in wanting to make the world a better place and relate to our fellow humans. So now, with all that out of the way, let's move on to the characters and where I believe that they fall into. So, a type 1 personality, I believe, would be Rabbit, the character of Rabbit. Now, if you've seen an episode of Winnie the Pooh or if you read a book, you will know that Rabbit likes to take control of all situations. He likes to have order rather than chaos. He likes to dictate things to everyone else because he knows that he has a talent for being organized. And when you're organized, you will have a space that is very clean and orderly where you can maintain health and happiness. So Rabbit, anybody who falls under the type 1 can be considered a reformer or a perfectionist. Their ego fixation is resentment. Now Rabbit often resents his companions in the 100-acre wood because they do not live up to his expectations. They are not all orderly as he is. And so he often resents them for it. He often wonders why they can't be like him. His holy idea is perfection. He wants to continue to strive for perfection. Anything less is not enough. Everything needs to be in order. He needs to know where everything is. And going on to the next one, his basic fear is corruptness, imbalance, or being bad. He has a fear of falling into a state of imbalance or being corrupted by the negative traits of his fellow companions. His basic desire is goodness, integrity, and balance. And that is rather self-explanatory. His temptation is hypocrisy or hypercriticism. Now, when you're a being who likes to maintain order in their personal life, you can see why it is a temptation to fall into hypocrisy. Because what if Rabbit does something that does not correlate to who he is and what he is used to doing? He'll be labeled as a hypocrite. He does not want that. His vice and passion is anger, and that goes along with the ego fixation. He often gets angry at his fellow companions in the 100-acre wood because they do not live up to his expectations. And you can see in the episodes, he often falls into a pit of rage when his companions destroy his garden or don't maintain cleanliness around him. And his virtue is serenity. He believes that the cleanlier his surroundings are, the more orderly things are in his environment, the more balance there will be. And so he will have a state of peace and serenity within himself and outside of himself as well. His inner state is a reflection of his personal environment. Now, somebody who falls under the type 1 who might be able to relate to Rabbit might fall into the mental disorders of obsessive compulsive disorder and perfectionism. And anybody who is listening and watching this right now might understand that when you like to be clean and orderly, sometimes you can take it to such an extreme where your entire day is fixated on your personal environment. And when people don't live up to your personal expectations, you get angry because they are not being like you. So that is how dark energy might manifest in Rabbit and bringing out his negative traits. Moving on to type 2. Type 2 can be correlated with the character of Kanga. Kanga is a kangaroo, naturally. She is a mother. Somebody who falls under this particular type can be called the helper or giver. Now, Kanga is a mother. She has these motherly instincts. She wants to make sure everybody is emotionally well. She wants to take care of everybody. She wants to keep everybody together. It is a very feminine trait, but it is not exclusive to women because men can fall under this category as well. Her ego fixation is flattery. She loves to receive compliments. She also likes to dish out compliments. And somebody who falls under this type might start to feel very sad inside when they are not validated every day. They are not given love and appreciation. So somebody who falls under this type might want to flatter others because she expects to receive the same. She expects that validation. Her holy idea is freedom and will. She wants to be free so she can give as much love and care to her woodland companions. Her basic fear is being unloved. She wants to be validated every single day, just like she tries to validate everybody else. And that is her biggest fear, to not receive that love, to receive that validation. Her basic desire, again, is to feel love. Her temptation is to deny her own needs and to use possibly emotional manipulation to get people to validate her feelings. If she is not careful, she can be emotionally manipulative to others, so they give her that validation. And if she's not careful in maintaining balance, she will deny her own needs. She'll spend all of her time and energy making sure all of her other companions are well at the detriment of her own health. And her vice and passion is pride. And of course, this is all up for debate, but somebody who is a type 2 is very prideful in their ability to give love to others. They take pride in being a caregiver. That motherly instinct is needed in this world. And so the virtue somebody who's a type 2 should look to continue to strive for is humility. Humility is the opposite of pride. Being humble about who you are and not getting too full of yourself. Because just because you have that capacity to give out love and care to others doesn't mean that they will be able to do the same, or they might not be willing to do the same because they have different personality types. Somebody who is a type 2 who can relate to Kanga might develop avoidant personality disorder. This is because they are often afraid to give a piece of their heart to others because they know that gives them a strong potential of being hurt. So sometimes it's easier just to avoid relationships altogether. Another disorder somebody who's a type 2, Kanga, might fall into is dependent personality disorder, which is quite the opposite of avoidant personality disorder. Now, why I think this is relevant to Kanga is because she is somebody who needs constant emotional validation for her to feel whole, rather than her finding that inner balance and finding meaning in her own life. She needs others to give her that constant validation. And this can lead to another disorder called hysteria. She's so full of emotion where if she's not receiving that validation, it can drive her a little bit crazy, where she's not able to maintain that balance. In all situations she's in, she cannot control her emotions. And this is how dark energy might manifest to somebody who relates to Kanga. Moving on to type 3. I believe that Gopher very much correlates to type 3 personality. Somebody who is a type 3 would be called an achiever or a performer. So somebody who's an achiever performer, I think, would often be somebody who wants to get things done. Somebody who is good at working with their hands in creating things. Whether they are a construction worker, they are a graphic designer, and things of that nature. They want to get things done. They feel fulfilled when they go out in the world and exert their energy in creating things. Somebody who is a type 3 might have an ego fixation of vanity, which means they look very highly upon themselves. They know that they have the talent and the willpower to create things in this world. This is somebody who would often look at themselves in the mirrors constantly. Their holy idea would be hope or law. Their basic fear is a sense of worthlessness. To them, not having something to do every day that gives them meaning and purpose often allows them to fall into a state of worthlessness. They want to feel fulfilled. They want to constantly feel like they are accomplishing something in the world. And their basic desire is to feel valuable. Their temptation is pushing themselves to always be the best. Whenever they do a particular job in their field of work, they want to do the best they can. They want to pay attention to all the details. And as the saying goes, if you're going to do something, you better do it right. Their vice and passion might be deceit. They will often want to even tell simple white lies so they can get their way, because they know that they have a strong sense of self and wanting to accomplish things. So they'll often want to do whatever they can to accomplish what they're seeking about doing. The virtue that they look to is truthfulness and authenticity. This is what a type 3 individual should be striving for, to be authentic at all times and to tell the truth. Even if telling the truth might get you in a little trouble, it is far better than being deceitful. Somebody who is a type 3 might fall under narcissistic personality disorder. This can affect people in different ways, to different extremes. Somebody who is a type 3 knows that they have a lot to give to the world. They're very good at working with their hands. They're very good at making things. And they take great pride in what they do. Moving on to type 4, which should be a relatively obvious one. This would be the character of Eeyore. Eeyore, somebody who relates to Eeyore, might be called an individualist or a romantic. Eeyore, his ego fixation is melancholy or fantasizing, always not being totally comfortable with his sense of self and spending most of his time and energy fantasizing about a different version of himself and not taking the action steps necessary to achieve that particular sense of self. His holy idea is origin. He wants to know, somebody who falls into this type
often wants to know why they are the way they are. Why do they experience the world they do, which is very different than most other people. His basic fear is having no identity or significance. Somebody who falls under type 4 wants to feel a sense of identity in the world. And when they don't have that sense of identity, it plummets them back down into a very melancholic state. Their basic desire is to be uniquely themselves. They want to be appreciated for who they are with all of their flaws. They want to know that their companions care about them, even though they might not be happy and joyful all the time. His temptation is to overuse imagination in search of self, rather than taking the steps necessary to achieve that higher sense of self. And so his vice and passion is envy. Somebody who is a type 4 gets jealous often of others because they are taking those action steps to better themselves. And somebody who is a type 4 often cannot find the energy or will to improve themselves. So they'll fall into a state of envy. But their virtue is equanimity, or emotional balance, is being able to take on each and every day with conviction, being able to maintain a balanced mood as much as possible, even despite feeling down. Somebody who's a type 4 can often expect to fall into major depressive disorder. Depression. Eeyore is depressed all the time, seemingly for no reason. But his companions tend to love and appreciate him anyway. Somebody might also expect to fall into melancholia, which is similar to depression, but you might characterize melancholia as having a baseline feeling and how one experiences the world, which tends to be a shade darker than most people. They also might be claustrophobic. They might suffer from claustrophobia because they don't feel like they have the personal space to feel comfortable and safe. So they often like to live secluded. They really appreciate their isolation. And that is how dark energy might affect somebody who is a type 4. Going on to type 5. This would most likely be owl. Somebody who is an owl is an investigator or observer. Their ego fixation is stinginess. They don't want to give their all to people because they often expect that others should be able to do things for themselves. Their holy idea is omniscience, transparency. Somebody who falls under a type 5 often wants to be as transparent as possible with others. That means talking about feelings, discussing thoughts, without having to put a filter on themselves. Their basic fear is helplessness, incapability, or incompetence. They don't want to feel like they cannot handle a particular situation. They want to have the will and energy to be able to tackle any situation. And when they're not able to solve a problem, they feel often worthless. Their basic desire is mastery and understanding. Somebody who's a type 5 spends a great amount of time and energy in understanding the world around them through observation and research. They want to know as much as possible, and they feel often lacking when they do not understand something. Their temptation is replacing direct experience with concepts. So somebody who is a type 5 might not often actively go out to seek experiences. Instead, They look to concepts. They look to ideas to give them fulfillment. They like discussing things. They like metaphors and symbols and allegories, but they don't often want to go out and experience these things for themselves. And so their vice and passion can fall under greed. They often want to hoard things. They want to keep things for themselves, and they want to have as many books around them as possible at all times. The virtue somebody who falls under a type 5 might want to continue to strive for is non-attachment, is being okay with oneself just the way you are. And if something falls to the wayside, something does not go as planned, it's okay to still have a sense of peace within oneself, even despite these material attachments. Somebody who is a type 5 might suffer from bibliomania. You want to hoard books because you feel like knowledge at all times must continue to be attained, and you never feel totally comfortable right where you're at. You constantly want to learn new things and research and collect all of these books to an unhealthy degree. They might also fall into communication disorder. Somebody who is very smart intellectually often finds it difficult to explain things to the average person who might not be on their level of understanding for whatever reason. They find it difficult to communicate to them and other people. And this leads them to often also fall into social anxiety disorder because they know they have that certain level of intellect and they can't communicate with others. They often might avoid social occasions. They don't want to be around people because they feel like they don't fit in. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. It feels awkward to them because they cannot relate to their companions. Moving on to number 6. A type 6 might refer to a piglet. Piglet, somebody who's a piglet, would be called a loyalist or a loyal skeptic. Their ego fixation is cowardice, constant worrying. Their holy idea is faith. Somebody who falls under the type 6 might often have a deep spiritual outlook on the world, and they believe that the more faith you have, the better you will feel in any situation, which is a very good thing to have. Their basic fear is being without support or guidance. Somebody who is a type 6 often feels lacking when they are by themselves. They feel like when they are with somebody, they are able to give more versus just being by themselves. They often feel if they do not have support or guidance, they are not able to achieve what they want to do. Their basic desire is to have support and guidance. And when they have that support and guidance, they feel like they can now exert their energy and focus it in a particular way. Otherwise, they might feel lost. Their temptation is indecision, doubt, and seeking reassurance. And that's a key word, indecision. Is constantly worrying that you are making the wrong decision, that you are not enough, that you can't do something. And so their vice or passion would be fear. Somebody who is a type 6 often falls under fear, even under the most minor situations. So their virtue is courage. Despite the fear, having the courage to move on anyway and to tackle any of these situations. Somebody who is a piglet, a type 6, might experience dark energy in the way of agoraphobia, which basically means this is somebody who doesn't feel safe in most situations. Any situation they are in, they worry about what could possibly go wrong rather than immersing oneself in the present moment and expecting the best, but preparing for the worst. They might also fall under generalized anxiety disorder. They're anxious all the time. They're worried about the future rather than being in the present moment. Moving on to type 7. This would be Tigger. Tigger, somebody who resonates with Tigger, would be an enthusiast. Their ego fixation is planning, anticipation. They're constantly planning out their day, their week, their month, and their year. They want to know that they have things to do that can constantly stimulate them. And that often involves being with other people. Their holy idea is wisdom. And again, having a plan. When you are planned and you know what you're going to do throughout the day, it is often very wise because you know that you're going to have things to do to occupy your time and energy. Their basic fear is being unfulfilled, trapped, or deprived. They want to have freedom. They want to be able to express themselves in the world without any restrictions. And when there are restrictions placed upon them in any situation, they feel trapped, like they cannot express themselves to the fullest. Their basic desire is to be satisfied and content, and how they often achieve this sense of satisfaction is being around other people. They are often very extroverted. They find great joy in experiencing things with others. That's what makes them satisfied. Their temptation is thinking that fulfillment is somewhere else. They often feel that they can find joy and peace only when they're with other people or when they are in a particular situation. But when they're still, they get restless. They have all this energy and no way of expressing it. And so their vice and passion is gluttony. Taking in too much. Somebody who is a type 7 often has an addictive personality. And so their virtue is sobriety, is knowing what things trigger you, what things in excess harm you, harm your health and harm your happiness, and learning to have some sort of temperance with your daily activities. Somebody who is a type 7, Tigger, might experience dark energy manifesting as attention deficit hyperactive disorder, or ADHD. Somebody who has ADHD often feels restless. They always have this energy, and this often comes with a short attention span. They're not able to focus. They're not able to stay inside and read or do an activity for very long. They have to constantly chase the next thrill. They also might experience hoarding disorder. If they cannot find fulfillment in expending their energy outside doing things, then they might fall into a pattern of collecting things that gives them this fulfillment. Moving on to number 8, a type 8, I believe would often correlate with Christopher Robin. This is very different from the other characters because Christopher Robin isn't an animal. He's a human. He is somebody who is often very separate from the adventures of the other characters, but he's still a very important aspect of the 100-acre wood. Somebody who is a type 8 might be called a challenger or protector. Their ego fixation is vengeance or objectification. And in the case of Christopher Robin, you can look at it as he is somebody who is growing older. As he's growing older, he has to go to school. He's has to exit his imagination with his companions in the 100-acre wood, and he has to essentially grow up and take on grown-up matters. And so as he gets older, he would look at his companions as being objects. They're just stuffed animals, right? You know, he starts to lose his imagination. His holy idea is truth. Truth. As you get older, you realize that while imagination is very important, truth is what grounds us in the world and being able to look at reality from a healthy perspective. His basic fear is being controlled, harmed, or violated. His basic desire is self-protection. His temptation is thinking that he is completely self-sufficient, and his vice or passion might be lust. And this often comes with being an adult, wanting to take on adult responsibilities and falling into patterns of lusting after something such as sexual gratification. And so his virtue is innocence. It's retaining the virtue of being like a child, childlike innocence, maintaining a sense of purity. And as you grow up, although you have to take on these these adult responsibilities, it's important to have that sense of childhood adventure, not being corrupted by fear-based mentalities, not being corrupted by the societal temptations, still retaining your youthful curiosity even though you have adult responsibilities. This is Christopher Robin, is maintaining his youthful spirit even though he is getting older. Somebody who is a type 8 might experience dark energy manifesting as schizophrenia. All right. Schizophrenia, as well as depersonalization or derealization. And these mental disorders correlate very well with one another, because somebody who suffers from schizophrenia or depersonalization, derealization, loses their sense of reality if they are not careful. While it is okay to have imagination, if you rely too much on dreaming, you will lose sense of what makes this reality our reality. And somebody might, if you have a very strong imagination, it's much easier to pick up on those voices inside of your head telling you you're worthless, you should end your life, you should hate that person, which are those dark voices inside of your head. Some people have the natural ability to tune into those voices, and it causes them all sorts of problems. That's largely because they have a very strong imagination. They're able to tune into other frequencies. And moving on to number 9, Winnie the Pooh. Somebody who relates to Winnie the Pooh might be called a peacemaker or a mediator. They are that one friend who wants to bring everybody together. He's the focal point of any community or group. They are often very lovable. They're trusted. They're friendly towards everybody, even with all of our differences. Their ego fixation is indolence, daydreaming. They spend too much time daydreaming where they don't actually get things done. They just sit and daydream. Their holy idea is love. They believe that love is the binding force for all people. It's what brings us together and gives us a sense of community. His basic fear is loss, separation, or fragmentation. So, and you can see this with Winnie the Pooh. He likes to keep everybody together. It is his fear to see any of his companions get sad or get mad to the point where they want to move out of the 100-acre wood. He wants to keep everybody together. And so his basic desire is wholeness. That's what gives him peace of mind. His temptation is avoiding conflicts and avoiding self-assertion. Somebody who relates to Winnie the Pooh as a type 9 will avoid conflicts, and they'll be afraid of starting any conflicts to the point where they won't take chances, they won't take risks, because they're afraid of hurting other people, and they're worried about hurting them being harmed themselves. And his vice and passion is sloth, and this is very obvious. Winnie the Pooh, as sweet and kind as he is and thoughtful of others, he's often very lazy. He eats too much honey. And so he's very forgetful. Even though he tries actively to think about others, he gets lost in his daydreaming and forgets what he was going to do. And so his virtue is action. He has the capability of love, being a peacemaker, keeping everybody together. But somebody who is a type 9 must take action. They must continue to take action in their personal lives to realize their fullest potential. Somebody who is a type 9, Winnie the Pooh, might experience dark energy in the form of split personality disorder or bipolar disorder. So and this is just, it's a speculation. This is all up for debate. But I feel that somebody who resonates with Winnie the Pooh feels complete when they keep everybody together. And whenever there is any sort of chaos in their personal life, especially if they're traumatized by something, they create a split in their personality, which is a way for the brain to maintain a sense of security. So he can still be that kind, compassionate individual when he wants to, but if he's threatened after being traumatized, he can resort to other personalities to protect that lovable nature. Okay? So that is all 9 types, and please keep in mind that this is not definitive. This is up for debate. But I think the Enneagram personalities can be very useful in helping us understand who we are, what drives us, what motivates us, what triggers us, and what virtues we can continue to work on every day to maintain that sense of balance. So give it all some consideration. I think it is a beautiful concept.
All right, so I hope that description of all those Enneagram personality types resonate with you in some way. Now, to bring it back home, going back to the Dark One, his main imperative is to derail our spiritual evolution. He wants to do everything he can to get inside the heads of any individual and do everything he can to work against you, to give you certain addictions, to drive you to exhibit very harmful negative behaviors towards your brothers and sisters. Okay, so if going back to this diagram, the main circle is our consciousness. The outer ring represents our collective unconscious. All right, the Dark One is constantly trying to work with these elements and our unique aspects of consciousness to get us to have destructive behaviors. He's constantly trying to bring down the tree of life. All right, now he influences us in various ways depending on our personality types. So think about it this way. There's both light energy and there's dark energy. The Dark One is responsible for all the dark energy throughout creation. We have through our power and conviction to create a world that is based upon peace and love and freedom. All right? Now, he's constantly trying to derail that. He's constantly trying to enter our subconscious mind and get us to exhibit negative behaviors. So, the more dark energy that we bring into this world through all of the negative emotions, fear, hate, anger, and this is manifested throughout our actions and our behaviors, through war, through competition, and all facets of life, getting us to hate our spouses, our friends, our neighbors. Okay, and all of these systems, government, religion, and money, are all meant to keep us in a state where we exhibit these sorts of negative behaviors towards our brothers and sisters. Now, because we all have different personality types, the dark energy that we all bring in through these negative emotions, they influence people in different ways. So the dark energy is constantly coming in when we're all with our heart resonating these negative emotions. This dark energy might manifest for some as depression. All right, those particular demons, let's just call them demons. I'm going to make a whole nother video about that subject. They might influence people who have a natural proclivity to be melancholic. But it doesn't mean everyone else will experience depression. Okay, this dark energy will manifest in the consciousness of others and cause them to be more aggressive and territorial. And this is all largely dependent on their genetic and spiritual makeup. We're all different and we respond to situations differently. Some people might have a personality type that is more prone to get anxiety. All right? This dark energy affects us all differently. Just because somebody else is depressed and you're not the one who is feeling depression doesn't mean that you have played a hand in allowing your brother or sister to experience depression. All right, all of us together are a part of this world. And when we bring in dark energy, we are affecting our brothers and sisters on the other side of the world. All right, you might not be the one who experiences depression, but they are. And the dark one might influence you in a particular way. Dark energy is dark energy. It influences us differently. All right? So the more dark energy we bring, the more that we are allowing this tree to decay. And this manifests in our physical world, even though the tree of life is an etheric aspect of creation. We are creators of this physical world, okay? We're bringing in more dark energy and keeping one another down and preventing all of us from realizing our highest power and potential. So keep that in mind, all right? You might not be the one who suffers from depression, but because of all this dark energy, people are getting depressed. All right? But this dark energy might impact you in a different way depending on your personality type, depending on the energetic frequency you have based on how strong these elements are within you, depending on what zodiac signs influence you stronger than others. So keep that all in mind. We must take care of one another and we must protect the tree of life. So use the example of Winnie the Pooh in the 100-acre wood as a symbol, a metaphor, an allegory of our collective unconscious. All right? We must protect the 100-acre wood. And we can do so by using our personalities, our strengths, to pick one another up and to cohabitate with one another in a way where we can maintain harmony within ourselves and our planet. We all have the power to utilize our personality to become the best versions of ourselves that we can. Even though we're all different, that is something to be celebrated. Whatever character resonates with you based on your personality profile, your energy, all of that. Okay, I'm glad to have you in this world, and you make this world a better place just being here. So I thank you all very much. I love you. I hope that this was somewhat helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.